Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is May the 6th, 2026. Hopefully this episode finds you well, in good spirits and high hopes. As for me, well, I'm doing all right. Happy Wednesday. Hopefully you humped and didn't get humped, unless that's what you're into. I'd say for me, I did not have the power position. Let's just say that. I was not where I wanted to be, how I wanted to be. But we made the most of the day. I do want to say that overall it was a good day. I think I'm just a bit down in the dumps and, got a little bit of the long face. But hey, we move. But, let's get into it real quick. I got up. I got myself together. I was like, okay, we're halfway through the week. Let's just get through it. And, I make my way to work. And once again, my lead pulls me aside, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go again. I'm like, what's the reprimand gonna be today? And I'm listening to him talk, and essentially, they're saying, hey, so we're gonna switch things up between you and the person who works second shift, who switches off with you. Essentially, we don't think that it's very fair that he goes up so early. We want to make it more even. And really that part stuck out the most to me. That I'm like, there's something weird about how you're wording this and how this is being broached, but whatever, fine. I was immediately compliant. I said, all right. Because essentially what they want me to do is when my second shift replacement comes in, I just stop crushing cardboard and I just go upstairs immediately. And they said, we'll call you and we'll tell you what floor to go on, and you'll do the putbacks, the gray bins, if you will. Which I've said before, I don't fucking want to do. The arrangement was set up between me and the person who works second shift, so I would have to do that as little as possible. And, I could just man the crusher, and therefore he wouldn't have to keep coming down and check on it or come back down to more work. Essentially it would be very, taken care of up until, the end of my shift. They didn't like that, so they, I guess, essentially just found a way to make it so that I would have to come upstairs. It wasn't just a suggestion anymore. Is what I'm thinking is what happened. Both of the supervisors and leads, the management, if you will, which I'm like, I don't understand the focus of this. I don't know if this is a callback to the whole texting thing from 2 weeks ago or whatever, or me just being on my phone, whatever. I don't know. And frankly, I don't care. It really doesn't matter to me at this point. Just like at the beginning of this year, I knew that changes were going to come that I didn't like. And I was just going to have to just adapt and get over it. And really not copying an attitude, really not making a scene would just be the best scenario. And that's what I'm choosing to do. So it just is what it is. And we move. So that's pretty much how the day went is... I worked till about 1-ish. The person who comes down for second shift, came down. And this is where I know that they were definitely scheming on some bullshit. Because I even asked him, I'm like, hey, so you heard the situation, right? He's like, yeah. And then, I let him explain it to me, what they said. And, more or less he came to the conclusion, it's like, this is just what they want to do, I guess. And I'm like, yeah. I don't want it. And, it seems that you were more or less fine with the scenario. I don't think I was screwing this person over in any kind of situation. But I also understand, too, that maybe the idea here is, hey, we get Isaiah off the crusher who we know he's slow playing it a little bit. And this way he gets to come up and, quote unquote, be more productive. And, we get what we want. Because they know the second shift guy is going to get everything done, come up, do, put backs just like me, and we're both going to be up there now. So, they get what they want there. It's just a frustrating thing. I've been doing this job for as long as I have, and to have these little changes, these little, I kind of perceive them as slights. I'm working on not perceiving it that way. Whatever. It's just business. It's just the job. But, it definitely left a sour taste in my mouth for the day, and I just really wanted to get out of there, and I'm like, whatever, cool, goodbye. So after work, I went to the gym. The gym was fine. Busy on a Wednesday. The vibes were kind of fucked. So, we did what we could. Kind of a scrappy little workout. Got in and got out. And, yeah. And then after that, I came home. I had a stretch, had a little bit of a snack, and looked into some news. And here we are, ready to yap about that news. So yeah, sorry for the low vibrational podcast. It just is what it is. It's one of them days. It's just one of them days. Anyway. But yeah, let's go ahead and do our startup, and let's get into the news. I should have got more water for this episode. Oh, this cowboy's gonna have to make do. Laissez. All right. Our first story comes from the BBC. Russian attacks kill more than 20 ahead of rival ceasefires proposed by Kyiv and Moscow. Russian attacks killed more than 20 people across Ukraine on Tuesday ahead of rival unilateral ceasefires proposed separately by Moscow and Kyiv. Authorities in Zaporizhia said 12 were killed in a Russian aerial attack, which President Volodymyr Zelensky described as a cynical terrorist strike. He said 5 people were killed in Kramatorsk and 4 in Dnipro. In Russia, authorities in the Chuvash Republic said 2 people were killed and 32 injured in a drone attack on Tuesday morning. On Monday, Russia and Ukraine declared unilateral ceasefires ahead of commemorations held by Russia to mark the Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany on Saturday. Russia said it would hold a ceasefire on the 8th and 9th of May and threatened a massive missile strike on central Kyiv if Ukraine violated the truce. But Kyiv announced it would observe an open-ended ceasefire from midnight on May 6th, and that Ukraine would act symmetrically from that point on. So essentially Zelensky kind of worded his like, hey, we're not going to do this 2-day shit anymore, because they've done these kind of ceasefires before. And they go on just long enough for the parade. Maybe they do a prisoner swap or whatever. They call that good and they get back to fucking war. And I think for Zelensky, he really wants to illustrate, he's like, look, we are not the aggressors here. We do not want that to happen again. And again, like it has happened time in memoriam. We want this to stop. So we will stop and not start until you guys do more shit. Like, I feel like that is what he is trying to lay out here. And Russia's like, yeah, okay, cool, whatever. It's also worth noting that their Victory Day parade is looking a little bit more scant, at least it's seemingly so. And, from Russia, they're saying, oh, we're not putting everything out. We're not going all out. We're not putting it all on the Ritz and Glitz because of potential terrorist attacks. Essentially, they're saying we didn't want to get hit up by Ukraine. And, Ukraine's like, or is it that you guys are running out of money and ammunitions and, you don't want to show what you don't have? Who knows? Maybe it's column A, column B, maybe a little both. Who knows? Time will tell, right? We'll look back and wonder. But I wanted to cover that. Obviously, seeing that number of 20 people is very sad. It's a grim reminder that even though this war is kind of, I feel like at least in a international, global, it kind of fades into the backbeat a bit. We've had Gaza, we've had Lebanon, we've had, we have Iran right now, we have Syria, like all these things have happened and almost gone, resolved, and gotten started up again. And then here we are still on this shit with Russia and Ukraine. And, we're talking yet again another ceasefire that doesn't seem to stick and doesn't seem to have much in terms of like any kind of road to peace. But, here we are. I don't really know what I'm getting at there, but I felt like it was important to cover a situation like this with a number as big as it was, I guess. All right, let's move on to our next story. Taking it back to, we're always really coming back home to the U.S. This is from the Oklahoman. Suspect arrested in Arcadia Lake mass shooting that police say was gang-related. A suspect in the mass shooting at Arcadia Lake was arrested on Wednesday, May 6th, one day after a young woman died at a hospital from her injuries at the Sunday Funday party, officials said. The suspect was identified by police as Jalen Davis, 18, of Oklahoma City. His bond was set at $1 million on a complaint of assault and battery with a deadly weapon. Oklahoma County District Attorney Vicky B. Henna announced in a news release that he will be charged with felony murder in the first degree over the shooting death at the unsanctioned gathering on May 3rd. Edmond Police Chief J.D. Younger confirmed at a news conference Wednesday that the shooting was gang-related. He said there is at least one more suspect in the shooting. Detectives believe this incident began with a disturbance between two females attending the gathering that escalated into an altercation between rival gang members also attending the gathering, he told reporters. During the altercation, multiple suspects produced firearms and discharged in excess of 80 rounds, striking numerous individuals. The shooting took place shortly after 9 p.m. on May 3rd at the Scissortail Campground at Arcadia Lake. Police said 23 victims had gun-related injuries. 6 were juveniles as young as 15. A person of interest in the shooting told investigators that Davis was the primary aggressor. A police detective reported in an arrest affidavit. The person of interest said Davis was a member of the North Highland Piru gang and had recently got into a fight with a known member of Hoover, the detective reported. The person advised that this fight caused havoc between Jalen and the Hoover gang members in Oklahoma City. The person also said a shooting victim, Devillian Wyckoff, told him on a phone call that Davis, also known as I'm going to say it's 3 Easy, but it's 3 with 2 Z's and a Y. So we're going to say 3Z? 3Z, whatever. Arrived at the party and started shooting, according to the affidavit. Police officers already were responding Sunday to an 8:51 p.m. call of loud music at a party at the lake when the shooting occurred, the police chief said. The notification of shots fired came at 9:07 p.m. I'm skipping that part. Let's see here. I guess I just really wanted to end in terms of just highlighting, sadly, the person who lost their life. Police confirmed Tuesday that an 18-year-old woman had passed away from injuries sustained in the Arcadia Lake shooting on Sunday night. Our thoughts are with her loved ones, as well as those affected by this tragic incident, police said on Facebook. The victim was identified by police and on GoFundMe as Aviana Smith Gray. The chief medical examiner confirmed her body was being examined on Wednesday. Aviana was so full of life and loved spending time with her family, friends, her boyfriend, her sister. Andrea Smith Gray wrote for the online fundraiser. She was just 18 years old, just graduated, and was waiting to walk that stage. Obviously it's very unfortunate. I had initially heard this story, and I heard like 10 people had been injured, and I was like, damn, that's really sad. That's really unfortunate. And that was like one of the things on my mind when I've been talking about these other shootings of the week. So hearing that someone actually did wind up, losing their lives, and then on top of that, hearing the number go up from like 10 to 20 something, over 20, it's very sad. It's very disturbing. And then you get into the details of it, and they are literally kids. And I do hate doing that because, one person's 18 is an adult and the other person's is a kid. But I feel like if we're talking someone under 25, this is a person who's just like, they do have their whole lives ahead of them. They do have not their whole ass fucking brain developed. You know what I mean? Yet they have the means to have a firearm and have a weapon, and they can go out with it. And if shit's going to happen and it pops off, they're going to let it pop off. They're not going to fucking restrain themselves, I guess. And these things are going to happen and keep happening, you know? Y'all know I struggle with this shit in terms of how deep I want to go into each and every one of these shootings, each and every one of these stories. And, you know, a lot of times I'm just yelling into the fucking abyss about it. And I try not to do that too fucking much. But every one of these stories is sad. Every one of these stories is something that it sits with me when I read them and I think about them and just realize that it could have been me, it could have been any of my friends, it could have been anyone I fucking cared about. And not to mention, it just could have happened in my neighborhood, each and every one of these fucking situations. Like, you know what I mean? I think sometimes, even though we know that this shit's happening every day, we'd like to keep thinking that it's not in our little town, it's not in our little place, everything's nice and cozy and fine here. But it's not. It could pop off, it could go off at any goddamn moment. And it's not something that, like, oh, it fills me with fear. It just makes me fucking sad, you know? Because life's goddamn precious. You don't need my dumbass to say that shit. But it's just like that. It's gone. Or for the rest of the people who are injured, I don't know the severity, but, like, your life is completely changed. Nothing is the same. Like, I don't want to fathom getting fucking shot at a fucking party, hanging out with my fucking friends, you know? Literally, I'm supposed to have a fucking Sunday fun day and I get my shit blown off. That's not a fate anyone fucking deserves, bro. But, you know, that's another goddamn day in America. Let's move on, though. I don't want to belabor a point. From the Associated Press, Trump's success at purging Republican dissenters may not help in midterm elections. So you could call this a little bit of part 2 of elections coverage. You know, I knew I was going to be missing some things, and I was like, oh, yeah, this Indiana thing was definitely an important aspect of the elections. A bit of Trump's revenge campaign, if you will. So yeah, let's go ahead and read this a little bit. 5 months ago, President Donald Trump was stinging from one of the first political defeats of his second term as Republican state senators defied him on redistricting in Indiana. Now he has proved he can still punish wayward party members after he endorsed a slate of challengers who defeated almost every one of the lawmakers he wanted to dislodge. But that success may not help Republicans' odds in November's midterm elections, when Trump's sagging poll numbers, lingering inflation, and frustration over the war with Iran have boosted Democrats' chance of retaking control of Congress. Some Republicans are worried that inter-party fights are costing time and money that should be focused on defending their majorities in Washington. I do find this interesting that just listening to any kind of poll watcher, guy, gal, whatever, everyone is saying when we're going into these midterms that, like, apparently Republicans are going to get fucking dog walked. Now, for me, seeing is believing on that fucking shit. Time will goddamn tell. But, I mean, it does make sense. You just look at the state of things, and you have to ask yourself, are we really doing this common sense thing or what? Because it doesn't seem like we are. Are we really not doing forever wars? Because it seems like we fucking are. Like, you really have to ask yourself, is this vote for Donald Trump worth it? Is this vote for these Republicans worth it? Like, are they really backing my interest? And I don't know. I mean, to some extent, I am, like, kind of surprised to see, you know, this bit of the shift, a bit of Trump getting his revenge, because at the end of the day, the lawmakers who defied him on this shit, their reasoning for it was like, hey, we talked to the people who voted us in. We talked to our constituents. They do not want to do this redistricting stuff. They don't care about that. They care about affordability. They care about their fucking grocery bill, Donald. So as much as we want to, like, go along with you on everything, we can't go along with you on this. It doesn't really matter. It's not that deep. And, like, for Trump, it was that deep. And so he went fucking over the river and through the woods about this shit. They spent way too much money as just a Republican Party fighting themselves over this shit. It is a very fucking bad look. But that being said, his constituents still voted along the lines that Trump wanted. And I see it here. I kind of want to read this last part, and I guess I'll continue onward. But however, Trump doesn't seem to have any second thoughts about purging his party of dissenters. Indiana's primary will likely bolster his confidence in other primaries this month as he tries to oust U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana and U.S. Representative Thomas Massie of Kentucky. So I really just wanted to highlight Massie because we've talked about him a little bit, and I do kind of, I guess maybe say amend or correction, whatever. Like I've touted Massey as something of like a Republican other because like he's at least someone who says no to Donald Trump on some things. But really when you look at him, he's just a Republican who just does that. Every other way, he is just going along with his party. It's not like he's really a libertarian-esque guy or anything like that. Not really. He's kind of a bit of a bozo, just like all the others. But once again, that sticks out like a sore thumb because that's just how the MAGA movement fucking works. That's just how Trump operates. So he's going out of his way to get rid of a guy like Thomas Massey. I shit you not, my dear listeners. Every fucking day of this month, and a good chunk of last month, if I'm not goddamn mistaken, I've seen attack ads on Thomas fucking Massey. I've seen the worst pictures of this fucking guy. They're doing him up crazy style. They're adding AI on his shit, bro. It's crazy how much money they're spending, how much time they are spending on getting rid of a guy who is in their party. Like, just to put in another guy who, on another side of a coin, you could call a rhino or whatever. But at the end of the day, that's Trump's dude. He's backing, or he's getting the Trump bump. So that's who most likely everyone's going to vote for in Kentucky. At least the Republicans, I imagine. So, I don't know. And the fate of Bill Cassidy, that remains to be seen. I think that shit runs deep for Trump because he was one of the guys who's like, yeah, no, Donald Trump should be impeached. Hey, don't get me wrong. I agree with everything Donald Trump did, but he should be impeached. And for that alone, he's like, I got to have your head on a platter. Billy Bob, you got to go. So, I mean, that's kind of the state of things, at least a bit of it, at least via the midterms. I felt like, hey, we should talk about that, especially the whole Donald Trump revenge. Yeah, at least he's getting a little taste, I guess. We love a petty Betty. We really do. All right, I have one more story that I wanted to cover, and then we'll go ahead and call it for today. But yeah, we got to go to Virginia. Actually, we're still talking politics in a way, but it's corruption, but I'm going to put that in quotations because, I don't know, the jury's, not even up, and it's still out about this shit. I don't know, and me being the jury. But yeah, let's go ahead and take our last break, and we'll close it out. Excuse me. Ooh, All right. From the Associated Press. FBI searches Virginia Senate leader's office as part of corruption probe. AP source says. The FBI searched the Virginia State Senate leader's hometown office and her neighboring cannabis shop Wednesday, bringing into public view what was described as a years-long, I don't know why I said that funny, as a years-long corruption investigation. The searches at Democratic Senator L. Louise Lucas, L. Louise Lucas's office and cannabis business are part of what two people familiar with the matter called a corruption inquiry. One of the people said the investigation was opened during Democratic former President Joe Biden's administration. Both spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss an ongoing criminal investigation. And I want to say right here, the fact that this is something that has quote unquote been investigated, looked on by both administrations is maybe so far from what I've read and gathered, which is not much, the only quote unquote damning thing I've heard about Lucas here is that not just the Trump administration is pursuing this, but also at least the Biden administration picked this up and looked into it at some point. But that's just what we're being told by an anonymous fucking source. So that's the grain of salt I want you to kind of hold it with, I guess, whatever. While the probe apparently has spanned administrations of different political parties, Democrats viewed it against a backdrop of recent politically charged inquiries against President Donald Trump's tenure. Lucas was a prominent voice in Virginia's recent redistricting effort, a Democrat-led initiative to counter Republican redrawing pushed by Trump. So, I mean, redistricting has just been all the rage. I feel like I've covered it like, a bit with the beat, but maybe I should have been talking about it more. I don't know. It's so in vogue right now. It's all we're talking about. The FBI said only that it was conducting a court-authorized search in Portsmouth. Such searches require approval from a judge and for investigators to assert that they believe they have identified probable cause of a crime. Let's see here. Besides the search at Lucas's office, which houses her disability services business and is her political base in Portsmouth, agents in FBI T-shirts also went into the nearby cannabis store, which she opened in 2021. Several entrances to the cannabis outlet's parking lot were blocked by unmarked vehicles with flashing blue lights, as was an entrance to the politician's office. And then agents were carrying boxes and bags out of the shop's back door. Now, this is another thing I really need to emphasize about the cannabis shop. Lucas, a prominent backer of legalizing marijuana, has said the shop says the store sells legal hemp and CBD products. They are not even touching THC in the motherfucker. Like, what are we doing here? They are coming at this shit with pitchforks over what? And I have not seen where the corruption is. Where's the money? Like you got to give me something here. But they're like, oh, cannabis, cannabis. And unless you are going to try to take this to a very racially charged place, I don't see I don't see it yet. So I'm very curious what the evidence is, what the motivation is for this. I mean, we will fucking see. Let's see here. No, the rest is just kind of details. They talk about Comey. They talk about Letitia James. Once again, just referencing the whole revenge aspect. In this regard, Lucas has been involved once again with the whole redistricting thing and fighting that. Fighting the Republicans in her state. I could see how that easily draws the ire of the Trump administration for sure. But once again, to me, as of right now, what I'm seeing, this looks like grasping at straws. And I would love to cover a corruption story, a good ass fucking grift. I'm down. I don't care who you are. I don't care what creed, color, whatever. You know this shit. But this is something I've talked about, I've touched on, I think about in terms of just, it is so frustrating that you cannot trust. I mean, you can't trust any administration. You cannot trust your government, period. Duh. We know this. You didn't come to the podcast hear my fucking dumbass tell you that. But I feel like it's especially highlighted because we have a corrupt government. We have a corrupt administration, especially that is saying, hey, we are pocketing every single dime we can. Legally, illegally, we don't give a fuck. What are the rules? But meanwhile, we are going to get our political retribution. We are gonna get our revenge. We have weaponized this whole fucking thing that we have told you for years has been weaponized against us, which, how is that possible? You guys are in fucking jail. And if you were in jail, you literally got sprung the fuck out, a la January fucking 6th, so you could do more dumb shit, evil shit. So, yeah, it's hard for me to believe. Until I see some fucking proof or reason for the fucking season, I can't. So, sorry. Oh, what can you do about it? We'll see in court, I guess. But yeah. That's really all I have for today. That's the episode. There you go. Rant over. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon. Patreon.com/IsaiahNews. Become a newsie today. Free way to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Subscribe to the YouTube, follow on TikTok, follow on Spotify, follow on Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to listen. Leave a like, leave a cool comment. Sharing is caring. It can be fun, but you don't have to do that. 5 stars are always appreciated wherever you can, but you don't have to do that either. I truly do. I can never stress this enough. I thank you so much for listening. My dear listener, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever you are, you know what I mean? Maybe this is in the far, far away future. But thank you for listening to me rant about my shitty little day. I think that's a part of this whole project, this catharsis, whatever, is that I get to put all this shit out here with my little precious little life and talk about these fucking news that are way above my fucking pay grade. But it's nice that I at least get to get it out. And I get to rinse and repeat that shit and run that shit back. And the powers that be have not fucking stopped me yet. Knock on wood. Please don't. Please don't stop the music, okay? Please. I really do love yapping, okay? All right. And I know that if I didn't have this podcast, boy howdy, I would be yapping my friends crazy style. I would just be sending so many voice notes. So please, for the benefit of my loved ones, just let me have this, okay? Please, universe. I'm clutching the table that I hold this microphone on. Please. Okay. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.